In this episode, I'm going to be discussing that half-built, half-finished, half-painted model that's been sitting on your shelf. Or was it mine? Probably both. Greetings boys and gits, and welcome to Dread Wargaming. Today, I'm going to be having a little chat about that project you, like I, may be hiding from. Now I suppose I should start by saying not everybody will be in this same boat. There are those who concentrate more on the gaming side of the hobby, and they maybe put their models together straight out the box, give them a reasonable slap of paint and call them done. But then there are a vast majority of us who enjoy the perfection, or at least the pursuit of perfection, with regards to kit bashing, converting, scratch building and of course painting. So for a real enthusiast, there are no limits to creation. Therein lies a bit of a problem though, because none of us are actually perfect and few of our creations are either. So inevitably, like me, you'll end up with a few projects that you've poured so much intention and time and love into that took a wrong turn, that at one stage or another and then sat on the shelf for months or years even. And now the reason I'm discussing this is rather personal to my own situation. I've just recently got over a modelling slump myself, and I think I may have some valuable thoughts to share with you guys about how to become more motivated in the hobby and how to treat those projects that just ended up on the shelf with a little bit more love. Now of course, one of the best ways that you can be more productive in the hobby is to take control of your time management. Many of us fit hobby into our spare time, and our spare time is usually our least organised time. So what I suggest you do is actually take control of your time management, write down all the things that you have to do in the week and look at your schedule if you already have one as such, and work out how much time you actually do have to give over to hobby, or how much time you'd like to give over to hobby, as long as that's going to actually fit into your week. Plot it in there, give it an allotted space of time, like an hour or 2 hours in an evening, or on a Sunday, maybe give yourself 4 hours on a Sunday or something, whatever. Write it down and make sure you actually give that time over to the hobby. Now, it's another thing as to whether you're actually going to want to hobby. I mean, at the end of the day, a hobby is a hobby, it's not work, so you shouldn't feel like you have to do it. You don't want to sit there going, oh, now I have to do this. You're supposed to want to do it, but giving yourself that proper amount of time and saying, right, I don't have to think about anything else right now, this is my focus. That's a good way to, get yourself started. But then, real life situations can flood over into our personal time quite easy, and it's very easy to end up busy and making excuses for yourself as to why you didn't actually do anything. But you have to be more strict, and you have to give yourself that time, say, no, go away, I'm doing my thing. I don't want visitors, I don't want to hear you, go away, But yeah, you can make excuses, and it's one of those things that can just roll on really, and you just don't really realise time just passed you by and you haven't really got much done. I do it all the time, and I know many of my friends do too.
Me and my sister were meeting some friends in town, and I was supposed to be staying at her house again, but then we ended up staying at a friend's house, but my car was at my sister's house. I know my car was at my parents' house actually, but there. My stuff was still at my sister's house, so I was like boom, 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 all over the place before we got home. And then I think I had a day to myself, but I just felt like I needed to sleep because I was that tired, so I just slept. And then I'm back in work. Well, I was back in work before my birthday actually. So basically, I've not had the time, other than I've had the little bits of spare time I've been using to. It was a Conquest minis, wasn't it? Yeah, it was the Conquest minis. Didn't get them done. And what was the other thing? It was the Morkngork Stomper. Didn't get that done either.
Before I dish out any advice or open the floor for any of you guys to share your own in the comments, I'd like to do a little show and tell, discussing a few models I myself have had shelved for far too long. And now I've picked a few at various stages of fecked up for you to have a look at and for me to discuss. The first of the models I'd like to show you is the model that was my re-entry into the hobby, as you could say. It was me honing my skills and practicing and still seeing if I had what it takes to even do what I used to do. So this was my sort of practice piece. And it started off as I mean, it is the biggest of all of them, but it started off as quite a humble beginning. It just wanted to be a piece of rockery outcrop, a bit of scenery with some rocks and a little outpost on it or something, you know, like a bunker or something. But, you know, as these things often do, and you'd rediscover the old mad mech inside and it starts brewing inside of you, before you know it, you created something insane. And I saw the Imperial Bastion and I thought, is there not an Orc one? Why not? There should be. I'll make one. So I decided to build this into like an Orc Bastion, but I decided it's going to be a radar tower. So it's actually missing, and I've never completed the radar dish for it. It has a circuit board that I fitted up the top with some flashing lights, and the wires come all the way down through the base, and I was then going to make a little generator for it, because I thought it could be good for even a narrative game where you've got like a little battery pack disguised as a power generator that you could maybe collect the generator, return it to the radar tower, power the radar tower up, and you get a few victory points or something like that for having done that. I don't know, it'd just be fun. But I thought anyway, in any old standard battle, it would just look cool. It'd be a bit of fun scenery, and I'd been sort of a bit inspired by some of the terrain I saw at Games Day back in, oh god, I can't remember when. Years back. I don't know. Actually, I'll throw out the pictures. They were the same time that the Forge World Boss on Bike was being teased and about to be released. It was that year, whenever that year was. But there's some images, I'm throwing them up here, you can see. They're all of the scenery that Forge World had created. And I was bowled over by this. This was what really decided for me what style my Orcs had to be. No more cartoon, colourful. This is what I'm going for. I need to get as realism as I can. I love in all of the rust and all of the dust and all of the... It just looks proper. Really, really like these images. When it came to building this piece, I had a lot of pieces left over from my previous incursion into the hobby, 5 or 6 years previous. So I had a Stomper, which was incomplete, unassembled, because I just bought it for the gubbins. I didn't really like the model, so never put that together. So I had the bulk of a Stomper, some metal knobs as well, some old school knobs. Oh, what else? I had some paints that were giving themselves over to Nurgle. They'd gone pretty rotten. I managed to save a few of those, and I'll do a video at some stage discussing how to save old paints, but some are beyond repair, and a lot of GW paints dry out pretty darn quick. So I lost a lot of those, but I had a few other bits and bobs, a few sheets of plastic card, although I don't think I had any decent bits. They're just offcuts and bits like that. And I had a few bits of scrap that I collected around the place, old plastic and stuff like that. So I went about compiling a pile of bits and bobs, a few Orky bits and stuff, and I thought, right, let's make something. Let's make something really cool. So this tower started coming from nothing, really. But before I could even confirm the return of any dormant modelling ability, something else stirred inside me. Pushed down inside by a remedial mix of Nag Champa, marijuana, singing bowls. Suddenly, an almighty force just erupted from inside me with an almighty Waaagh! And before I knew it, I'd committed the belly of the Stomper to this build. It only made sense, I thought, that the inner mecha decided to make a giant listening device, a huge disc scanning the skies, mounted on an imposing, grim and frankly unstable Orc tower. After all this time kept out of the Great Waaagh, the first thing an Orc's going to want to do is locate it, I assumed, find where the bloody Waaagh is. Everything was going okay most of the time. I fitted a little circuit board with flashing lights and ran wires out through the bottom of the model with the intention to build like a battery pack shaped as a mini generator. I had made a few radar dishes, but they kept breaking off, so I decided I'd use magnets and come back to that bit a little bit later. I can come, it's something you can just come back to. So I cracked on with completing and painting the actual tower, and you can see I did a decent enough job of the rust, and I was happy enough with it. This is the first time I was using a lot of new products for me, so I tried out several chipping techniques and had mixed results, but I was relatively happy. I was also trying out my airbrush for the first time too. There were points when I was happy and then times when I was ready to give up. Like when I did all the red on the side that covered so much cool rust detail for zero gain. That was frustrating. After getting it to a state of feeling like it would do, I wanted to give it a coat of varnish. So I could then try some pigments and enamel effects for the first time, maybe on the top of that, but the problem I had was in trusting Games Workshop's varnish. I won't rant here and now about it, but I'll just say for a company that produces great models, it's reasonable paints, it's reasonably shocking to consider that they just can't seem to fathom how to make a varnish that doesn't frost or doesn't have anywhere like the qualities of so many other brands out there. They're not even UV protective, but anyway, rant over. So this sorry state of not quite radar tower has sat on the shelf for the past few years, and I stuck it on the highest shelf so I didn't have to look at it. And for all that time, it cost me, I was bitter. It gathered dust, as you can see, and I've done nothing with it. I decided it'd just been a waste of time and didn't know how to fix it and lacked any motivation to even want to. So all in all, basically, with regard to this tower, I put it together, I was happy. I painted the rust, I was happy. Started putting some more paint on, weren't so happy. Fixed that paint, was happy. Varnished it, disaster. And I didn't know how to fix it, and so I just left it. And it wasn't until someone said to me, look, you can fix it by putting gloss varnish over the top, that I tried that. I've done that. It's restored it to some point. I do know I can go over it again with another matte varnish now to neutralise it a little bit, but I think what I'll do at this stage now is, as you can see, it's rather shiny. What I'll do is I'll do all of the sort of enamel effects and stuff like that and try and change the colouring a little bit. I do want to work on it again. I'm just going to come at it like a fresh project, treat that like an undercoat, paint it again as such, and then I'll varnish it. But yeah, it's a learning process, and besides which, I'm now able to use this model to learn how to paint over or repaint or add a second layer of paint or however you want to look at it. It's still going to be a learning process. So although I did the wrong thing in sticking it up on the shelf and hiding it away from myself and feeling sorry about it, realistically there's a lot that can be learned from these sort of projects. Don't shy away from them, dive back into them, and maybe if you really can't look at it for a little while, work on something else that's getting your juices flowing and then come back to the old project. Similarly to the tower is the story of my killer cans. Now I intended to do heavy paint chipping effects on these too, but I forgot to add the layer of varnish between the rust undercoat and the successional layers of paint. So obviously when I went to activate it, it was a complete mess. There were some areas that weren't activated at all, others that were overly activated and went right back to the plastic. So yeah, fairly bloody disappointed. So I need to fix these models. But the paint I used is highly pigmented, and I didn't test it out first. It's a P3 paint. It just doesn't work with these chipping fluids, So the GW paint's chipped away, but the paints from P3 didn't. So they're ridiculously vibrant, but I thought I'd be able to mute them down by chipping them away, and then I was going to, highlight them, low light them, and dust them up, and they wouldn't have been anywhere like as vibrant as they are here. I would never paint anything this madly coloured. I thought I'd be able to chip it away. Sadly, I couldn't. So this is what I've been left with, and although it's another one of those projects, like I am going to fix it, I'll get to it, but I've just been totally put off because they're in such a sorry state. So they've just sat there obsolete and not been used, and it's a sad thing, so I'm going to make an effort to actually crack on with my killer cans. So these are just a few of my shelf projects, and I just wanted to share with you a little of what I've learnt from them, and others I have, sat around on the shelves too. So first off, having taken a step back to re-examine the more or less productive periods of my hobby career, I realised to myself that the lulls had often come at times when life itself was heavy. Be it relationships, work, or other real world stresses, something was getting in the way. And I think this is probably the most common reason for people to be less productive in the hobby, if at all. But of course, real world commitments and draws of our time can also be highly positive ones. But I find during those, if I actually have the time to hobby, that I also have the confidence and the drive to accompany it, to actually plough right through those projects. But I realised there was something more, at least personally, to take note of that was often occurring in conjunction with the real life stresses, but also with the before mentioned shelf projects. Something I only recognise by seeing it in others, actually. That thing comes in varying degrees of severity when it's bad, but when it's good, it can be, responsible for our finest achievements. And that thing is, of course, our mental well-being. Noticing slumps in hobby productivity could be a good way for a loved one or a friend to recognise that maybe everything isn't quite okay with you. Few of us really actually fall out of love with the hobby. So, in fact, many of us, our lulls often happen exactly when we're otherwise absorbed in the hobby. We might be absorbed by the news and the rumours and the lore, but our state of mental well-being might prohibit us from actually engaging with the hobby creatively ourselves, so we won't be all that productive. And positive creativity does require a positive mindset. Worries, concerns, anxieties and stresses all get in the way of creativity, even small things. So that's the first thing that I'd realised had contributed towards me being less productive. But the second thing was those before mentioned projects, failed projects, that to start with, they may take advantage of some of your positive creativity and seemingly come along in leaps and bounds to begin with, but then you become invested and you really care about them, and then they might hit a speed bump or road bump, whatever you want to call it. But either way, they hit a bump and so do you. Now maybe you're aware at that stage that they're irreversible. You don't have the skills, or you don't feel comfortable that you have the skills to actually repair it. And God damn it, the bloody model won't fit in your ultrasonic cleaner, so you can't even strip it. Or maybe you know that fixing it even is something that can't be done, or you don't know how it can be done. One of the best ways to counter the previous points would probably be to invest yourself into one of these fret lists. Now, I'd looked at fret lists before. I'd even done a few on the forums back in the day. But what I found myself is that the trouble with these fret lists is that you don't really... They're easy to drop out of and ignore, and it's easy to stop caring about them. And I realised in order for me, anyway, to stop or to care more about them, is I had to have a more meaningful relationship with the people I was making promises to. And one of the best ways to do that, I suppose, is to actually have somebody that you introduce to the hobby, and they become infused with it and they want to do it. And by them wanting to play you, that drives you to do it. So that's a good person to make a fret list too, because it causes you to crack your own whip as such. But lately, for me, the best driver I've found, and the best stimulus for me I found to actually push me to do things, is YouTube, is producing videos here for you guys, and actually having people, even when I haven't done that much yet, encouraging me and saying that what I am doing is good. I've put out some videos and thought to myself, I'm not very happy with that, and I don't think that's going to be very well received. Who's going to care? And then people have actually made videos and said they appreciate the video that I made. Those videos for me, and the comments that I've received from my videos, are the reason that I'm pushing and doing more hobby right now. So my advice to anybody else out there that's having trouble with motivation is not to just dive on YouTube and make videos. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is find what works for you. There's many different ways that you can be stimulated, and maybe a fret list would work for you. Maybe you can enter a painting challenge like Idic Beer's painting challenge or something like that. Get involved. But I find that I'm very good at giving advice to others, and I'm very terrible at ever taking it. The same way with compliments. If someone compliments me to my face, I can never take it. I always find it difficult. But if somebody writes me a nice message, I tend to be able to take that a lot better, and it gives me the drive to want to produce more of whatever it was that I was receiving the praise for. Obviously, you know, I want to do more of that because people enjoyed that, and you know, it was something I enjoyed. I was just afraid others wouldn't, and when you find out others do enjoy what you do, then it really does drive you. So you need to find the right community, and I do believe that in the hobby community, I'll say, specifically around Warhammer 40,000 and Games Workshop products, I will say that the Games Workshop community is a vast and mostly supportive and excellent community. There are elements to the community that I will discuss in another video, because I've had all sorts of problems with the community myself over the time that I've been involved. But on the whole, there is a really supportive community out there, and if you dare to put yourself out there a little more, you'll find it that little bit more rewarding. Engaging with the YouTube community has been a massive source of inspiration and support for myself. I've only been making videos for the last 3 months, and after I made my very first video, a fantastic fella called Big Mac Danskull reached out, and he made a video response to my video after the very first one, which I know is definitely him reaching out and you know, making a sort of community friendship move. You know, he's being very nice in sort of welcoming me to the fold as such. So even though he was disagreeing with what I said, it was done in a way that was a bit banterful and stuff like that. So it was fantastic. I was really overwhelmed and excited that after my very first video, someone who I was watching, someone else that was already out there and established, was making a video about me. So yeah, it was great, and I enjoyed making my response, as I say. And then I had about 4 videos stacked before Rage Against the Dice also made a video about me, and he said some fantastic things too, and had a lot of expectation for my channel at such an early stage. And then Morkngork, I was actually just watching his video, innocently watching away, watching him build his grot stomper, and he was chatting about some channels that he finds very inspiring, and these are channels that I find very inspiring, ones that I watch myself. And then at the end of the list, he just chucks my name in there and starts talking about one of my videos and how it's very useful for the beginner. So I was really happy and overwhelmed with that, because that particular video is the one I really wasn't really sure how people would receive that. My bits boxing, the Orcs Central series, because I thought I'd do a series for people that are sort of beginners or new to Orcs and stuff like that, so you can explain all the various different bits, and I want to add more episodes to that, but I wasn't sure if anyone would even like it. But there he was saying it was brilliant, so that's encouraged me to make a second episode, and I'm working on a third. And I mean, this kind of falls into the same category in a sense. It's motivational stuff, but it's not going to go in the Orc Central series, I doubt, anyway. And lastly, 6 Plus Stevo. Now, who hasn't been watching 6 Plus Stevo since he begun? I have, definitely. And I've been chatting to him in his comments before I even started making videos and stuff. So once I did make my first video, he was, you know, full of support and help for me. Same with Skarnir too. The two of them have become very firm buddies of mine. And Stevo did a top 5 Orc channels list, and he polled me at number 2 already after only 3 months. And yeah, that was pretty fucking cool. So thanks, Stevo. And if you do want to take Stevo's advice there, listen to the man, he knows what he's talking about. Subscribe to this channel, because there's some bloody good content coming soon, guys. Enough said.
Yeah, I always, if something catches my eye, a particular video, then I like to respond to that with a video response. And in this video, I'm responding to W.I.P Gaming. With this, check the link in the description below to his channel and go and watch his brutally honest review. Then, if you would while you're there as well, you can subscribe to his channel, of course. That'd be fantastic. So make sure you check out W.I.P Gaming's channel and give him a sub if you think you'll like his upcoming videos. If you're looking for Orcs,
you can see that I have bell buttoned it, because it is a channel that I definitely want to see the content as it's coming out. The reason I felt it was so important to do this one is because his channel's hilarious. He's very honest. He's very, very good, and he covers Orc-based stuff. In my video, that I did about it. I was also honest, but I don't think my review really did it the justice his did. So I definitely think you should check it out. And then he covered Speed Freaks, as you can see there. Now, a Speed Freaks review is kind of what I want from an Orc review. It was just pure passion in a video. You could tell he was excited, he can't wait to get his hands on it, and that's what I want to see.
Dread Wargame, he did an excellent giveaway video in which he talked about bits boxing and kit bashing. And that video is super helpful for the beginner about how you should organize your workspace and how you should kit bash different kits together and whatnot. You should definitely check that video out too, if you don't already know how to keep your workspace organized and whatnot.
Dread Waaagh Gaming. Probably a channel that a lot of you aren't yet familiar with, and the only reason for that will be is that he is that new. He has literally just been doing this a few months, and but I expect huge things from this guy. Already he's made some really entertaining videos. He's incredibly knowledgeable. You can tell this guy has got really good skill with the paintbrush, with converting, and he really does know his stuff. He has been in the game for a long time, collecting and playing and building orcs, and just really knows his stuff. He's got a wealth of knowledge, and he's really funny as well. That's what's great about his videos. They're quite light-hearted, they're quite entertaining. In particular, his videos in which he is displeased with something, where he has a bit of a rant, can be very entertaining. In particular, I think a particular highlight for me was when he rather foolishly purchased the special edition Orc Codex. You know, the £50 one, the super limited edition, and was disgusted to find that all it was a different cover. He's only made like a few videos, but those videos are solid gold, really good, entertaining stuff. And for someone that's so new to this, it's incredible how professional he comes across and how well put together his videos are. And yeah, I predict really good things for him, and I predict that his channel is going to bloom and blossom and grow into something absolutely massive. And I know that he's got some super sort of secret projects and things on the go at the moment to do with his channel, and some plans for the future, and I think they're quite big. I think he's got some big stuff happening, so it'd be a good time to get over to his channel and subscribe and be a part of that, and watch him grow, because yeah, trust me, you're going to see some good stuff out of Dread Waaagh Gaming. You've heard it here first.